Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today I will be telling you all about the books that I read in the first half of January. So firstly, The Witches of Ilianan by Kate Forsyth. This is about um, two girls who are twins and they don't know each other at all. They each have like abilities that tie together, but and they're identical and all of that, but one of them had absolutely no idea about any of this, and the other one, I don't know, it's basically a fairly typical fantasy book. It was really good. I enjoyed reading it, but it didn't really bring anything new and different to the table, so it was ultimately pretty forgettable. A Crown for Cold Silver, also a book that was a pretty enjoyable read. I really liked it, but ultimately nothing new and different about it. So what I really liked about this one was the characters and the character banter and the dialogue that happens. It was all so well written and had so much personality, and there are several badass ladies in this, so I really enjoyed it for that aspect as well, but ultimately nothing new and different here. It was pretty much just a typical fantasy book. So Fatal Throne, which is actually by 8 different authors, but this is basically a collection of short stories, each detailing one of the wives of King Henry VIII. And if you've ever been much of a historical fiction reader, you've probably read books about some or all of these people, and I certainly did. I used to be really big on historical fiction back when I was in my teens and early 20s, and I read multiple books about every single one of these women, and I feel like this book, in the stories in this, they each offered a new perspective as well as staying true to everything that we already kind of know. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really good. Each of the stories was a little bit different, but they all tied together, like they kept the same consistency in it, so it was like reading one whole book the whole way through. Like they didn't totally independently each write a story, like they actually paid attention to what things were happening and everything in each other's as well. Top Story by Kelly Young. This is the next installment in the Front Desk series. This one follows Mia as she goes to journalism camp in San Francisco, and she experiences Chinatown for the first time, and then she kind of experiences the elitism of journalism and how people of color stories are not really making the news as much, because she and two of the other kids who are also people of color actually band together and make their own newspaper because they are each really unsatisfied with the guy in charge of them at the journalism camp just turning down their pitches and their stories multiple times, because he just says like, oh well, like this doesn't have as much local readability, etc., but then he totally does take stories that don't from the white students. This series is just so good, and I can barely put these books down. They're so awesome. And then finally we have Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I did not read this for the longest time, only because it didn't really appeal to me as a book that I wanted to read, only because of how hyped it was, because I was hearing about it all over the place, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I would like it. But then recently my sibling was listening to the audiobook, and it was towards the beginning of the book, so I wasn't like missing that much information, and it sounded so good, and so I read this. I checked it out from the library immediately and started reading it, and the beginning of it was really awesome. Like the first fourth of the book was really gripping, and it did start off really well, but as it went on, I think the pacing was not great. There were parts where it really dragged. The writing was not that good. Like there were times when I had to reread some sentences to understand what was going on. And then ultimately the whole plot, while it had some really killer ideas in this, like it definitely had a uniqueness to it, I felt like the whole thing was very it didn't really offer anything to take away from the book. It was kind of just meh. The last couple months have been just a really bad time with fantasy books for me, which sucks because that is mostly what I read. And I've been reading a lot of fantasy lately that is just mediocre and not fantastic. And even if I kind of enjoy the book, it doesn't give me anything to want to read more of the series or anything memorable about that particular book, any of that at all. So that's a little bit of a bummer lately. So if you do have any recommendations for fantasy books that really gripped you and moved you, please let me know in the comments because I would love to check them out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!